General Thomas pulled up to the stop sign, his eyes scanning the intersection before proceeding. He was 7 minutes late for a meeting and was anxious to arrive. As he turned the corner, a police car screeched to a halt behind him. 2 officers, their badges gleaming in the sunlight, stepped out of the vehicle. The officer's stern expression seemed almost rehearsed, a precursor to the events that would unfold. "License and registration, please," one of the officers barked, his tone sharp and commanding. General Thomas complied, his brow furrowed in confusion. "Officer, what's the issue?" he asked, his voice calm and measured. The officer sneered. "You're late and your paperwork is out of date." General Thomas's eyes widened in incredulity. Being late was not a crime he was aware of, and his paperwork was always in order. He had served his country with honor, earning the respect of his peers and superiors alike. Yet these officers seemed determined to treat him like a common criminal. Without warning, the officer yanked open the door and ordered General Thomas to step out. As he did, the officer reached for his handcuffs. "You're under arrest for obstruction," he said, his voice dripping with malice. General Thomas felt a surge of indignation. He was a decorated general, a man who had dedicated his life to serving his country. How could these officers treat him with such disdain? The absurdity of the situation was not lost on General Thomas. He was being treated like a common criminal, not the high-ranking officer he was. The officers' behavior was unprofessional, and their actions seemed motivated by something more sinister than mere zeal for the law. Now is the time to stand up against racial profiling and police brutality. If you or someone you know is facing similar injustices, don't stay silent. Report incidents, document evidence, and demand accountability. Seek support from local organizations and advocacy groups. As General Thomas faced the officer's bias, he knew he wasn't alone. He drew strength from his community and the countless others who had faced similar struggles. Together, they could create change. The memory of his ancestors, who had fought for freedom and equality, fueled his determination. He would not let this injustice stand. The officers led General Thomas to the police car, their grip on his arms firm but not brutal. He glanced back at his vehicle, now abandoned on the side of the road. The world seemed to be moving in slow motion, and General Thomas felt like a pawn in a much larger game. The day would be long, but General Thomas was determined to clear his name and fight for justice. He would not be silenced or intimidated. He would rise above, and he would inspire others to do the same. The question was, would you join him? As the hours ticked by, General Thomas found himself in a small, dimly lit cell. The cold metal bench was unforgiving, and the air was thick with the smell of disinfectant. He sat in silence, his mind racing with thoughts of the injustice he had faced. The officers' actions were a stark reminder of the systemic issues that plagued the country. Racial profiling and police brutality were not isolated incidents but symptoms of a larger disease. General Thomas knew that he had to take a stand. He would not let this experience define him. Instead, he would use it as fuel to drive change. He would rally his community, and together they would demand justice. The time for silence was over. The time for action had begun. With a newfound sense of purpose, General Thomas stood up, his eyes fixed on the door. He would walk out of this cell with his head held high, and he would continue to fight for what was right. The journey ahead would be long and arduous, but General Thomas was ready. He was a general after all, and generals did not back down from a fight. The door to the cell creaked open, and a familiar face stood before him. It was his lawyer, a man who had represented him in the past, and had a reputation for being one of the best. "General Thomas, I'm here to help," he said, his voice firm and reassuring. Together they would fight for justice. They would take on the officers and the system that had wronged him. General Thomas felt a sense of hope, a sense that justice would be served. The road ahead would be long, but with his lawyer by his side, he knew he would emerge victorious. The days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months. General Thomas's case gained national attention, and he became a symbol of resistance against police brutality. His story inspired others to come forward, to share their own experiences of injustice. The movement grew, and soon, the country was ablaze with protests and demands for change. General Thomas stood at the forefront of it all, his voice ringing out across the nation. He would not be silenced. He would not be deterred. He would fight for justice no matter the cost. And in the end, justice would be served. The officers would be held accountable, and the system would begin to change. The story of General Thomas would be one of courage and resilience, a testament to the power of the human spirit. He would rise above the injustice, and he would inspire others to do the same. The question was, would you join him? Would you stand up against racial profiling and police brutality? The time for action was now.